This is where like I feel like I know Prezi better than I should. Anyway, so let's pick up. Unfortunately, what's so funny, and I'm now on YouTube saying this. The essay, because of the computer problems that we have, the essay that I started working on last class is gone. So, I mean, it is what it is, but it's still a frustration. Hi, ladies, come on in, take a seat. We're already recording, so. I was just telling. If you want to be on camera, you can do that. I was just telling Krista and Rachel that unfortunately the essay that we started writing last class is gone. Very exciting. That's okay. I think that we can focus on more of a question answer type discussion type class, and then of course I can craft something, so it's not a big deal. Okay. Now I've added on to the Prezi. And of course, we all remember those things, and some of them we'll touch base on once again. That was the last one that we discussed. Now, when we're discussing poetry, and I think I've done a decent job of discussing this throughout the year, we need to make sure we identify the speaker in the poem. It is never, well, I shouldn't say that, but don't ever assume that it's going to be the same thing as the author. Okay? Just because Poe wrote The Raven doesn't mean he's the speaker in the poem. Okay? Now, can the speaker and the poet be the same thing? Of course they can. But you need to identify the speaker in the poem. Sometimes it's a woman if a man's writing the poem, and vice versa. Okay? So we need to be aware of that. Also, what is the point of the view? What is the occasion? Is it spoken to someone in particular? Okay? Think about the poem that we read by Sir Philip Sidney. Okay? What is the occasion of the poem? Frustration, right? He's at his wit's end. Kind of like us this week. It's been a rainy, gloomy week, and it's not been a very nice week either. Everyone's been stressed. That seems to be the motif of this week. And so that might be the occasion. He's at his wit's end. He might not be doing it on Wednesday. He might be doing it on Monday or Tuesday. But Wednesday is where we're at, where we're just numb, and we're supposed to get a tornado today. So I mean, you know, Rachel's in shock. Sorry, potential tornado. So, yeah. So, is it spoken to someone in particular? This poem is kind of universal, isn't it? It's just like, you know, listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. Don't let desire get you wrapped up into things. Okay, it'll get you in trouble. Locate the shifts in the poem. This is important because I don't think that we do this. We just gloss over poetry and prose. Especially yesterday when we went over, ladies right here, and then ladies will do this today, unfortunately, when we went over Frankenstein. Frankenstein is an exciting story. However, the passage that we went over yesterday in class, what was it? It was absolutely the most dry thing we've ever read. And was it difficult to find the shift? Absolutely, it was totally difficult in finding the shift. Because we had one paragraph where the mountainside is being described, we're just like, I can't do this. This is longer than Faulkner. These sentences are dry. There's nothing here that makes me want to go up on a mountain. I don't want to even sing The Hills Were Alive with Sound of Music. I just don't. It's awful. And so finding the shift is going to be difficult. But you need to find it. Within the poem, we need to find it. And within poems, that's a little bit easier because they're shorter. Okay? And even Dover Beach. That Matthew Arnold poem that we went over. That was very difficult, wasn't it? That was a difficult one, but you still need to find the shift, if there exists one. Okay. All right. Notice the turning words, and make an asterisk by them. Okay, Rachel.
Is there always a shift in the poem?
Is there always? No, but Emily Dickinson, for example, there's not much shift in most of her poems. Okay, most of the time it's just like this is the way it is. You know, and she creates this really, really colorful imagery for us. You know, she's either in her garden playing the botanist, like she often did, and discusses life as an extended metaphor. She looks at the birds, she looks at the insects, and there's hardly ever really a shift. It's just beauty, and we should take it as is. But that's what the Transcendentalist did as well, you know. Walt Whitman's fairly straightforward, okay? When he mentions certain things, we know what he's talking about. When he says that America is awesome, he means America is awesome. Okay? So there's not always going to be that shift. That's a good question. Next, and I know this is a little bit difficult to read. My apologies. Let me zoom in just a little bit for the camera. Okay? Identify the tone of the poem or the tones. Okay? I know that's difficult as well. Sometimes you sit there and like, I don't care. I just want to get through this test, and some of you will feel that way on the day of the test because we have the morning one. We have the 7:45 like we always do. Okay? And you're going to sit there and say, Cressita's pancakes were awesome. The muffins were stellar. Thank goodness Ms. Egger brought those donuts, the granola bars. I'm so thankful that we had the Tassimo coffee maker inside the classroom, and now I have to take this. It's only 9 o'clock and I still have more time to do on this test. Okay? You still have to find that tone. And there's a tone chart that we'll be taking a look at either on Friday or next week to help you better prepare for that. But you pretty much have an idea of what tone is. You know, it's pretty basic. Read the poem aloud, and again, it says read it aloud, and I know that that's impossible to do on the AP test, but mouth it. I really can't reiterate that, especially if you're a master at prose. Okay? If you're a master at analyzing prose, you have to read the poem out loud, because it's not going to be your strength.
Ms. Pickering to the main office, please. Ms. Pickering to the office.
Okay, your prompt. This is the important part, and it's something that we've discussed, some of us, for 2 years now. How do you organize a prompt? You attack it, and do not parrot the prompt. Those are the first two things. Don't ever parrot the prompt. If the prompt says, in an essay, please talk about the poetic devices and how it emphasizes the shift in tone, but don't sit there and say, the poetic devices clearly show the shift in tone. That is the most irritating thing on the face of the planet. You hate writing it, we hate reading it. Don't say it. Be creative. Jump outside that box and be creative. Attack the prompt. Just like we saw on Monday, that essay didn't even discuss the poetic devices right away. Okay? We're talking about the introduction. Don't do it. Don't give in to fluff or a three-pronged thesis statement. But compose a thesis statement that clearly responds to the prompt and provides insight into the topic. It should provide focus for the essay and should not contain a list. I can't say that enough. I really, the recursive 5-paragraph essay was great for middle school. It's great for standardized tests if you don't have a great grasp on the organic essay structure. But don't give a list. Don't sit there and say personification, metaphor, and simile help to establish the shift in tone in this poem. Don't do it. The body. I'm big on organic, like you know. Okay? I want paragraphs separated by ideas, not by the poetic devices. But Mr. Cressita, I already know what your question is. It's asking us to discuss the poetic devices. You don't sit there, just like we discussed last class. Here are all the personification examples. They're pretty cool. Here are the metaphor examples. They're neato. And then let's... I'm excited about anaphora. Let's spend an entire paragraph discussing that. Let's not. Let us not. Okay? Don't do it. Provide 2, if you can't do more. Saturate your essay with textual support. The poem is right there. You need 2 textual references per paragraph, at the very least. If you have a long paragraph, put in more. If you are a master at composition, you put the text within your own assertion. You got to do it. Do not allow long quotations to control the paragraph. Some of you get text happy. You're like, dude, these 15 lines of this poem are going to fit perfectly for this assertion. And you put 15 lines of poetry. Don't do that. Don't do that. You have to separate the text out. What's important from there? Okay? You can even, it depends on certain examples, but I'm going to throw this out here. Say you have 15 lines of a poem that you really want to talk about within your assertion. Find 2 lines and try to plot summarize the rest. Really. Do not let it get out of control, because some people do that. They pop an entire page. If they're talking about a novel, see page 39. What part? The entire thing. You got to narrow it down. Page 39 is quite long. Only include references and literary elements that clearly support the thesis. This, again, even though the prompt is asking the poetic devices, look at that. It's only like a minor part. It's like 1/4 of what your body should be. Why is that? Can I just throw that out there? Like, what? you have this major shift that's happening right now for you all. Why is that? Does anyone know?
Because an essay only on our literary devices is super boring.
Yeah. And they're a dime a dozen. I mean, they're less than that nowadays. I mean, they really are. You have to show superior complex thinking. That's why the organic essay functions so well. Okay? If your introduction is stellar, and I know you all can do it, you attack the prompt, provide a nice thesis statement. This poem by so-and-so is about this and responds to this part of the human condition. Y'all can do it with TV shows. Seriously. Look at Dexter. Rachel, don't look at Dexter. Seriously, look at Dexter. Dexter by whoever wrote Dexter. I have no idea. I'm not even going to lie. It's about what? What is Dexter about?
A guy who's a murderer.
Yeah, a serial murderer. But he only kills bad guys, which shows what about the human condition? What does that show about Dexter? He's crazy, but he's crazy with a moral compass. We all want to do the right thing, but we all try to go about doing the right thing in different ways, right? Couldn't you say that that's a thesis about the show Dexter? Hey, Kathleen.
Hey.
And that's what you could say. I mean, you don't have to agree with me. You can just sit there and say, Dexter by so-and-so is a show about murder, plain and simple murder. There is no excuse for murder ever, and he's just a straight-up murderer, not a good guy. We should not elevate him to a hero status. Okay? At least you have a thesis. Remember, you can be wrong. You never have to be right. But you have to back up your stuff to show that you're right. Okay? That's another thing. SOLs. Some of your teachers told you, lie. Lie. Come up with a good story. Come up with a great story. And that's how you answer your prompt. You are being evaluated on complex thinking, how well you craft an essay, and your expression. You are not being evaluated on how well you tell the truth. Ever. Conclusion. Don't repeat the thesis. In conclusion, here's my restated thesis statement. No. Get that idea out of your head. We've talked about that in the entire year, for some of you 2 years. Don't tell the reader what you already told them. Again, we're just destroying the conclusion for the 5-paragraph essay, right? Where the remaining sentences within your conclusion, I mean, usually, seriously, right? In conclusion, restated thesis statement. Next sentence. What did I tell you in body paragraph number 1? In one sentence, right? And try to be somewhat original, even though that's the opposite of what you're trying to do. Then the next sentence, summarize what you did in the second body paragraph in an original manner. Then the same thing with the third one, right? And then the last sentence, leave your reader thinking. I mean, seriously, right? Ridiculous. But I mean, it had an organization. It had a purpose. It helped you organize your thoughts. You're just not allowed to do that anymore. You have to step it up, okay? Make a thematic connection. Explain what the passage can teach us about the human experience. And again, this is what is difficult for some of you all. You all sit there and you go, I don't get it. Like, why am I citing one last piece of text from the poem in my conclusion? Like, why am I doing that? Like, I've always been taught, just summarize what I've said. In conclusion, this is what I said. Have a nice day. Not so much. Okay? Don't even say in conclusion. Don't ever say it. I mean, seriously, get rid of that. That notion. Just sit there and talk about how the thematic connection connects to everyday real life. How does Dexter compare to everyday life? Well, that's a stretch, right? Although I'm sure there are like serial murderers, unfortunately, walking around thinking that they're doing the right thing. In essence, they're not. Okay, and that can be your thesis and tied to the real world. What about the poem that we read? What is the connection? Well, some of you desire so much. Like this week has been an absolute struggle for some of us, right? And the rain's not helping. I mean, this morning I got soaked on my way from the car into the building. And I was angry about it, but I had to find a way to let it go. Because what would Sir Philip Sidney say about desire? Desire to get angry, right? He would sit there and say, those of us who were here on Thursday and Monday, right? We know that the desire to get angry is there. And what does it do? It just makes us angrier. Is that fruitful? Absolutely not. More and more angry because of the rain. I hate your rain! And you start punching at it. And you look like a crazy person because you are. You're giving in to that desire to be angry at an inanimate object. I mean, arguably rain has, feelings and stuff like that, but you know what I mean? So you don't do it. So how does that tie to the rest of what? Well, Sir Philip Sidney, even though he's writing in the 16th century, he's long been passed away, his wisdom carries on. He tells us not to get enraptured with desire or anger or any other emotions when it's not justified. Straight up. Okay? That's all you got to say. That's all you have to say. And your conclusion is 1 to 2 sentences. That's it. It does not have to be a paragraph. Never has to be a paragraph. Tie it to your last body paragraph if you want to. Really. Your AP prompt can be 3 paragraphs if you pull it off well. And your conclusion can be connected to that last body paragraph. 4 paragraphs is preferable, though, to be honest with you, because you get like 40, 45 minutes, right? Okay?
Per essay.
Per essay. Except for the free response, which is what we're going to dive into on Friday, which is going to be the hardest one by far. And Kathleen, as I was telling everyone, I honestly think that most of you are going to use Invisible Man, if not C.S. Lewis. I really believe that. Okay? Unless you want to use your independent reading novel, and that's usually, those are the 3 that we get going. Invisible Man is like 50% of you all. You all just go back to that one. It's really interesting, actually. And then the other part, it's the last book, and it's usually the one that waxes philosophy or religion, and that's what C.S. Lewis is going to be doing for us. We're going to talk about Till We Have Faces today, and how that's C.S. Lewis's allegorical journey from being an atheist to an agnostic to a Christian. That's why it's a myth retold. So we're going to take a look at that. Some of you are going to look at The Great Divorce, The Great Divorce, discussing what we're doing right now. Why is the rain here? Because we're in purgatory. We're not, we're not living anymore. We're in purgatory. It's an interesting idea. Okay? So we're going to be looking at those things, and so most of you will tie to that one. But that one usually takes 60 minutes because the urge to go to plot summary is too great, and we need to avoid that. Okay? All right, next. I want to discuss 10 things, and then let's get to a prompt. Okay? I'm going to put this Prezi up here, and this is one that I've been harking on for quite some time, so you guys will sit there and say, I recognize everything that you're saying, so I'm going to keep it brief. I really will. But the top 10 knickknacks, I just tried to come up with a clever term there. It's really not anything fancy. I was thinking about British people, so. But top 10 knickknacks to consider when responding to prompts, just 10, okay? And I'm going to keep this brief because I don't want to lose Olivia. Present tense, always write in the present tense, okay? Literature is always in the present tense. It's never in the past. It's never in the future, okay? It's always in the present tense. We're talking about 1984, even though it's done and over and Winston is now like captured and who knows where, you're still talking about how Winston got that journal, started writing in the journal, how he was captured by the police, he was tortured. You talk in the present tense. Winston always exists. He's arguably our hero or anti-hero, okay? But he's always there. So write about literature in the present tense. Questions about that, ask. There should be a discussion, not just me telling you stuff. Ask questions.
So even if you're referring to the book and you're saying like a previous chapter, if you're like talking about something that happened in chapter 10 and then you go back to a previous chapter, but then he like has this flashback to chapter 2, do you continue that flashback in present tense or in past?
That's the frustration I have, is that we really need to, I wish we had a lot of time to focus on this, the different verb tenses that we have. Like, we need to establish like past progressive and perfect progressive tense, so that like you understand like an action took place, it's over, but it still went on. All those things. So maybe we should take a look at the different tenses, at least 12 of them, so you have an understanding. So let's I'll make a note of that right here to focus on that for Friday and give you guys a handout. Because you all need to know past progressive and future progressive, and all that stuff. Kind of like the things you learn in Spanish class, and you sit there and go, I wish English had an infinitive.
Yeah.
English does have an infinitive, I hate to tell you that. And how many parts of speech are there? See, now you guys are on YouTube and you don't know the answer. 7 or 8. Which one, Kendra?
7.
Yeah.
8.
Can we review that too?
Sure. Noun, verb, adjective, adverb, pronoun. Very good. Then we have 3 left. Preposition. Thank you. What else? Nope. Direct object is a noun, right?
Oh, yeah.
Nope.
No, that's part of it.
Interjection. Very good. And last one? Conjunction, junction. What's your function? Very good. And, but, or gets you really far. Okay? So there you go. We have 8. We need to know those.
Okay.
Verb tenses. We have lots of arguments at the least. At the fewest number, 12. But most people argue 16, 17, even 18. Okay? Similar to Spanish. You sit there and you go, I have the preterite, I have the imperfect, oh my gosh, I hate this. And then you hate the future because then you have to get into the conditional and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh. So, we'll get into that. Present tense though. Kathleen.
What if your quote, in your quote, there's past tense? Like
You're-
if the character is referring to something that happened
That's okay.
before,
That's okay.
then just leave it in past
Leave that there.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you can always put in your brackets. You all know what I'm talking about with regards to brackets. Why do I just lose this pen? So, like, say someone, I really need to work on this a little bit. So, if the quote's like he was, instead you put, and what does that do?
It shows the reader that you understood.
It shows the reader that you're changing the tense. You can do that.
Okay.
That's totally fine.
tense.
Did it all the time. What's that?
Can you also just quote it the way it is?
You can quote it the way it is, absolutely. Okay, and the reader's going to know that you at least understand the textual support, and that's all that matters. You're not just focusing on the tense. If I hear you, sometimes it's necessary to change that tense. I know what you're talking about. No first person. I think I beat this into you enough. Okay. In AP literature, there is no first person. In English 11 honors, there was first person. Okay. But I was trying to get you away from it. Why? Because first person generates what person? Second person. And we never write in second person. Remember when you were 3 and you fell off the swing? No. Well, why not? Because I didn't fall off the swing. You know what I mean? I mean, I know this seems like a shallow example, but it's true. When you sit there and just assume that everyone is the same as you, you're not really taking into perspective universal feelings and thoughts and the fact that everyone's an individual. Okay? So, no first person. I personally believe, sorry, Miss South Carolina, but I mean, you don't want to say that. I personally believe. I'm glad that you personally believe, because that's so much stronger than I believe. Okay? No first person, ever. Don't do it. No. Any questions on why? I mean, you don't have to like it, but yeah. No first or second. Punctuation. Okay, make sure you punctuate things correctly. Underline titles and novels and plays. Underline the titles of novels and plays. And poems are in quotation marks. I've done that in the daily agenda the entire year, so just follow that idea. Thesis, okay? We don't want to list. But remember, a thesis is an opinion, okay? It's an opinion you want to defend. The rain is awful. Okay, defend that. Like, I mean, it gives us life and everything, so you're going to have to really go far to put it. Ideas and organization. Each paragraph is one idea, not a poetic device though. Okay, around one idea. If you feel like your paragraph is too long, break it into 2. All right? Organic essay structure. Textual support is a must. I'm not going to discuss that again. I've already beaten that into the ground. Okay, textual support though, and I will say this, textual support, this last thing that I put down is merely scenery. That's important. Okay? You never sit there, and I know a lot of people will disagree because they've had other teachers say that they need to do this. I don't agree. I don't agree at all. This particular quote addresses the fact that I'm right. Don't. Don't. You sit there, do formula again. Assertion, textual support, discuss the assertion more. That's it. It's a very simple formula. Some of you are like, it's not that simple. I understand. I get it. Okay? But you make an assertion. Winston is an anti-hero. Provide textual support where it talks about how he's a sniveling baby and basically gives up Julia, right? Okay? Basically says, like, I'm a bad person and all these other people are bad people. And then discuss how Winston is a sniveling idiot and that he's not really a hero. He's the main character of the story, but he's no hero. He lost. He got captured. How can he be a hero? He didn't even fight his way out. He was I'm under arrest. Okay? There you go. That's a strong paragraph. And it's around the idea that Winston's not a hero. Okay? Bless you. Conclusion. We just discussed that today. I'm not going to beat that again, but remember, it's not a paragraph. It's just 1 or 2 sentences. That's it. Especially for a prompt. For a prompt. Okay. One of the worst things I can see as an English teacher is when you guys are writing a literary analysis, is when someone says, that guy, you know, in that one scene, and I've seen that several times, where someone actually writes that guy in that one scene. Way, Rachel, way. It's worse than seeing the end at the end of an essay, and it's worse than seeing someone write, thank you very much for reading my essay. It's even worse than when I see this, and I've shown this to you guys before. It's even worse when I see this. I don't like that. It just drives me insane. But people have done that, and people will continue to do that. Just like people will continue to have their title at 48-point font, hot pink, underlined, and bolded. My English 11 kids yesterday, when we were reviewing MLA, did not believe me that they weren't allowed to do that. And they fought for like 5 minutes saying, I can bold and underline all I want because my title is my title. And I said, your title is not special. Sorry. 12-point font, Times New Roman or Arial. Thanks. So, don't talk about that guy. Unless you're talking about Guy Fawkes, then you're okay. Grammar counts, okay? Grammar does count. Please make sure that everything is looking good. You will get knocked off for grammar, so please make sure that everything is looking okay. When I say proofread, the reason why we did all those peer editing exercises where you read aloud is because you need to hear and make sure that your voice makes sense. If it don't, you need to correct it. You really do. That's it. That's all the top 10 knickknacks I have. Okay? So let's look at a prompt, shall we? Gosh, where did my site go? I didn't even click on it. Okay, AP exam. Look at 2012. Is that right? Or 2000? Let's look at 2013. Why not? Is that the poem one? Yeah, that's the poem. Don't worry about that. Oh, look at that, D.H. Lawrence again. Okay, so we have a passage that we can look at. All right. But since we're really short on time, maybe let's look at the open and response one then. But I mean, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get a passage. You're going to have to read it, and the quote and the question says, the following passage is from D.H. Lawrence's 1915 novel, The Rainbow, which focuses on the lives of the Brangwens, a farming family who lived in rural England during the late 19th century. Read the passage carefully, then write an essay in which you analyze how Lawrence employs literary devices to characterize the woman and capture her situation. I mean, it sounds like an exciting essay to write about. I mean, clearly. I mean, you all love 1915 literature. That's why I stopped teaching Portrait by Joyce, because even though everyone goes through, we have artists in here, as I've seen with the ceiling tiles that you all painted. It's absolutely freaking amazing. Like yesterday was an awesome class in second block. But this is why I stopped teaching Portrait, because it was written about 1912, right? And so the young men are sitting there going, 5 different epiphanies. It's a very short book. It's like maybe 100 and some pages. And you sit there, and it's 5 different epiphanies of this guy and how he becomes an artist and rejects society, rejects like, you know, his overbearing Catholicism, right? And he sits there and rejects it all, and he becomes an artist, and everyone's like, cool, man, rejection, all right, yeah. And then they read the book, and they're like, I don't get it. You said it was about me. So this is difficult. You have to rise above and understand that, like we've seen with some of the poems and some of the pieces of literature that I've tried to make somewhat interesting, there is a connection to modern day. You have to see that 1915 does relate to you almost 100 years later. Okay? Even though 1915 is 100 years before the release of Star Wars Episode 7. Okay. So let's look at the open response. Okay? And again, this is going to be the most difficult essay. So this is what we'll focus on Friday, very beginning, okay? And I will bust out a text and discuss this one, and we're going to look through the list in just a second. All right, a Bildungsroman, or, and I totally butchered that. Where's Miss Rader to help me out with that? But a Bildungsroman, or a coming-of-age novel, okay, that's an actual term, recounts the psychological or moral development of its protagonist from youth to maturity, when this character recognizes his or her place in the world. Select a single pivotal moment in the psychological or moral development of the protagonist of a Bildungsroman. Then write a well-organized essay that analyzes how that single moment shapes the meaning of the work as a whole. Now, the very first thing that you do not want to do in this essay is sit there and go, a Bildungsroman. Me and the Bildungsroman are like, we're like this. So I'm just going to use that term 8,000 times in my essay. If you don't use it once, that's okay. I mean, seriously. Like, you already know that, I mean, fortunately, it gives you what the definition is, which is fantastic. It's a coming-of-age novel. Brilliant. Makes it very easy, doesn't it? I need. So, that simple. But you don't have to mention it through the remainder of your essay. Okay? So, what book, I mean, there's this whole list, and I'll maximize the screen a little bit more, but what book, like right away, screams out to you and says, coming of age novel? Hey, look at that portrait. I'm just kidding.
Secret Life of Bees.
Sorry, what?
Secret Life of Bees.
Secret Life of Bees. If you know Secret Life of Bees, you roll with it. How interesting, I highlighted it by accident. What else?
Invisible Man.
Sorry, what?
Invisible Man.
I mean, Invisible Man is always there. It's like, it's always on this list. It really is. That's why most of you use it. And could you use Invisible Man very easily right now? I mean, seriously. The coming of age. You talk about the battle royale. That's his first, like, major epiphany, isn't it? Like, he realized that he had to be denigrated by white people. God, I mean, you could just roll with the battle royale for this. And you could. You really could. That passage from the sample AP test. You just roll with that passage. You could. What else? What other books? Just throw them out there. Yeah, To Kill a Mockingbird. Oh, seriously. Yeah, seriously. Scout. I mean,
Mr.
just,
Susco, you have a call for
you love that book. I mean, it's great. Harper Lee is amazing. I love T. Chapel Lee Sunbury. And it's a great book. I mean, you can knock that out real quick. Erica, Catcher in the Rye. I mean, Caulfield. I mean, Holden. Is he crazy? Is he not crazy? I mean, you know, is he just a normal person? Because we all go through like these morbid curiosities, right? We call it morbid curiosity when you go through it, like, you know, murder, you know, right? I wonder what would happen if I jumped out that window or pushed someone out that window. Like, some of us have those curiosities, but and they are morbid, but when we actually go through with it, that's when you've crossed the line, right? And Holden crosses the line. So you can definitely argue that book. That'd be great. What else? Great Expectations. I mean, yeah, Fitzgerald is good stuff, right? So you sit there and go, I want this prompt. This is easy. But it's not. Why? What's the first thing that you're going to start doing? Plot summarizing. Yes.
So we're supposed to assume that our reader knows the book inside and out, so that I can just say, like, in this chapter this happened. Like, I don't have to say, like, in this chapter this happened there. I'm supposed to assume that they know inside and out this book that I'm talking about. Even if it's not on this list.
No. Even worse. You have to get even more psychologically superior Okay, this is what you have to do, Rachel. And people will disagree with me on this. You don't assume that the reader read the book. You just come across as the smartest person on the face of the planet. You're trying to show the reader that you know this book inside and out, and still pretend to have a discussion with them as though they're right there. So they can try to fake, like, you know when you talk to someone and they think that they know something about something, and they clearly don't, but they're like, dude, yeah, totally, yeah. Soccer, yeah, offsides, that's a stupid rule. I mean, I just, I know everything. And you sit there and you're like, they have no idea what I'm talking about. But you just continue to have that conversation, okay? That's what you need to do. You are the master. This is why I never tell you to do Shakespeare, right? How many Shakespeare essays are there out there? A bajillion. Like, I know that everyone's like, Macbeth! No, don't do Macbeth. I mean, seriously, like, I tell you to fall back on the 5-paragraph essay if you need to. Fall back on Macbeth if you really need to, but don't. Don't shoot for it like I'm going for Macbeth, man. I'm going to make this the best. Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay? So, let's do this prompt next class. Okay, next session on Friday, and I will bring donuts. I swear. It was just recoup time last night and writing like 2 prezzies. So, but sign in. So we'll do verb tenses, and I will write this prompt. Okay? Krista.
Could I print out the book that we're reading by C.S. Lewis?
Yes. Now, I will actually do it during class.
Could you?
Absolutely.
I have a question about that.
Sure.
So, like on actively.
Sign in, please.
There's like these little like diamonds.
They're dashes.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes,
okay.
I read through and I made sure they're dashes. That's what they
Because
are.
I googled it to like I googled it to see it like read it in different PDF. I opened it in chapters 1 through 6, which is like chapter 1 on actively. Yeah.
Okay. You're all set.
So if I just read chapter 1, am I good?
Okay.
Wait, chapter 1 is all of it? It's all 6, right? Chapter 1 includes all 6.
Let's take a look when we get to the class.
Because it's super long. Like,
I thought that was just like one chapter. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, I was like, no, there's